Nas is finally opening up in a way fans have waited years to hear. His silence, his deep lyrics, and his calm nature always felt like they were hiding something real. Now, everything is starting to make sense, piece by piece. But was he ever truly hiding anything, or protecting something much deeper? The quiet we never understood. At 54, Nas stands in a place many artists never reach. He is calm, he is respected. He is successful in a way that feels steady, not loud. His name carries weight without effort. When people speak about him, they do not rush. They slow down, almost like they are choosing their words carefully, the same way he always has. But even now, there is something about him that feels unfinished. It is not about money or fame. He has both. It is not about talent. That has never been questioned. It is something quieter, something deeper, something that has followed him for years, like a shadow that never fully steps into the light. Fans have always felt it. From the very beginning, when his voice first reached the world, people could tell that he was not like others. His words were sharp, but also soft in a strange way. He did not just rap. He painted pictures. He told stories that felt real, almost too real, like they came from a place most people could not see. Yet, even as he shared so much, it never felt like he was giving everything. There was always a line he did not cross. People noticed how he moved. He was not loud in public. He did not chase attention. While others spoke freely, he held back. While others explained themselves, he stayed quiet. It was not fear. It felt like control, like he knew something that others did not. That is what made him different. Over time, fans began to feel that his silence was not empty. It was full of thoughts, memories, and truths that were never fully spoken. They listened closely to his music, hoping to understand more. They replayed his songs, searching for hidden meaning. They believed that if they paid enough attention, they would hear what he was not saying, because somehow it always felt like there was more. His reputation grew around this mystery. People called him poetic. They called him deep. They called him one of the greatest. But they also called him private, quiet, hard to read. He would stand in rooms filled with noise and still feel distant. Not cold, just careful. Like he was always watching, always thinking, always choosing what to show and what to keep. And that made people wonder, how could someone so open in music be so guarded in real life? It did not seem to match at first. His songs spoke about life, struggle, pain, and truth. They felt honest. They felt raw. But the man behind those words remained just out of reach. You could hear him, but you could not fully see him. That space between what was shared and what was hidden became part of who he was. To understand that silence, you have to go back to where it all began. Not the fame, not the awards, not the success. You have to go back to Queensbridge houses. This place was not just a neighborhood. It was a world of its own. It was known for its size, its energy, and its struggles. Life there was not easy. People grew up fast. They learned quickly. They saw things that stayed with them. For a young Naze, this was home. Every street, every building, every face told a story. Some were hopeful, some were hard. All of them were real, and he watched it all closely. He listened more than he spoke. He paid attention in ways that others did not. That is where his voice was shaped. But more than that, that is where his silence began. In a place where speaking too much could bring trouble, knowing when to stay quiet mattered. In a place filled with noise, learning how to observe gave you power. And for him, that way of living never truly left. As he grew, that quiet understanding followed him into his music. It gave his words weight. It gave his stories truth. But it also built a wall, one that people could feel but not break. And so, the mystery grew. Fans did not just listen to his songs. They studied them. They asked questions. They wondered what parts were real, what parts were hidden, and what parts he chose never to reveal. Because deep down, many believed the same thing, that the man behind the music had a truth he had not fully shared. Years passed, albums came and went. His name only grew stronger, but that feeling never disappeared. If anything, it became clearer with time. The older he got, the more people noticed the calm in him, the control, the distance. It was not emptiness, it was something else. Now, at 54, that quiet still surrounds him, but it feels different. Not heavier, not darker, just closer to the surface, like something that has been waiting for the right moment. And that is where the story begins. not at the height of fame, not at the loudest moment of success, but in the quiet. Because to understand what fans have always suspected, you have to return to the very start. Before the world knew his name, before the records changed everything, before the silence had meaning, a child of Queensbridge. Long before the world knew the name Nas, there was a quiet boy growing up inside Queensbridge houses. The buildings stood tall and close together, like they were holding secrets between them. The air was always filled with sound, voices, footsteps, music, and noise from every corner. Life moved fast, and no one had time to slow down. For a young Nas, this was not just where he lived. It was where he learned how to see the world. Inside his home, there was a different kind of sound. His father, Olu Dara, brought music into the space in a way that felt alive. His father was not just someone who played instruments. He carried stories in every note. When he played, it was calm but powerful, like he was speaking without words. Nas listened closely. He did not always ask questions. He did not always speak, but he watched. He felt the rhythm. He understood that music could say things people could not explain out loud. That lesson stayed with him in a quiet way. His mother held the home together with strength and care. She brought warmth into a place that could easily feel cold. She made sure her children had what they needed, even when things were not easy. Her presence gave balance to everything around them. But life does not always stay steady. As time passed, his parents went their separate ways. The home changed. The feeling changed. For a young boy, that shift was not loud, but it was deep. It created a space inside him that could not be filled easily. It was not something he spoke about often. Instead, it became something he carried. That was when the quiet in him began to grow stronger. Outside, the world did not slow down. Queensbridge continued to move with its own rhythm. People came and went. Stories unfolded on every corner. Some were full of hope, while others were heavy with struggle. There were lessons everywhere, but they were not taught in classrooms. Nas began to learn in his own way. School was part of his early life, but it did not hold him for long. He left at a young age, stepping away from a path many expected him to follow. But leaving school did not mean he stopped learning. In fact, it was the opposite. He turned to books. He read deeply, searching for knowledge that made sense to him. History, culture, language, and ideas filled his mind. At the same time, the streets around him became another kind of teacher. Every conversation, every moment, every face added something new to his understanding. He did not just see what was happening, he absorbed it. He noticed the small details others missed, the way people spoke when they were hiding pain, the way silence could say more than words, the way life could change in a single moment. These things stayed with him, building quietly inside. His world was not simple. There were challenges everywhere. Safety was never something you could fully relax into. Choices had weight, even at a young age. Mistakes could have real consequences. This kind of environment did not give anyone the luxury of growing slowly. It pushed him to grow fast. But instead of becoming loud or reckless, Nas moved differently. He became more thoughtful, more careful, more aware. He learned when to speak and when to stay silent. He learned how to watch without being seen. He learned how to understand without asking too many questions. This was not weakness. It was strength in a quiet form. His inner world became rich with thoughts, feelings, and questions. He carried stories inside him, even before he knew how he would share them. Every day something new was added. Every moment shaped him in ways that could not be undone. People around him may not have noticed it at first. To them, he was just another young boy in Queensbridge. But inside, something was growing, something steady, something powerful. The music from his father stayed with him. The strength from his mother stayed with him. The lessons from the streets stayed with him. All of it came together in a way that felt natural, like pieces of a puzzle slowly finding their place. He was not trying to be different. He was simply becoming who he was meant to be. And through it all, one thing remained clear. Nas did not just live through those moments. He felt them deeply. He understood them in a way that went beyond the surface. He carried them with care, storing them quietly, waiting for the right time. That depth became part of his identity, shaping not only how he saw the world, but how he would one day speak to it. What seemed like silence was never empty. It was full of meaning, and that meaning was still growing. Because soon, all of those thoughts, all of those feelings, and all of those quiet observations would begin to take form. They would turn into something strong, something clear. That depth would soon turn into something powerful, something the world had never heard before. The voice that changed everything. The moment finally came when the quiet voice from Queensbridge houses could no longer stay hidden. What had been building inside Nas for years was ready to be heard. It did not arrive slowly. It came with strength, with clarity, and with a feeling that something important was about to change. That moment was Illmatic. When the album appeared, it did not feel like just another release. It felt different from the very first sound. The words were sharp, but they were also full of feeling. The stories were simple on the surface, but deep underneath. Every line carried weight, like it had been carefully shaped over time. People listened, and something clicked. This was not just music made for fun or attention. It was truth. It was life, told in a way that felt real and honest. You could hear the streets. You could feel the struggles. You could sense the quiet thoughts behind every word. It did not sound forced. It did not sound fake. It sounded like someone finally speaking from a place many understood but could not explain. Fans felt it immediately. They did not need time to decide. They knew. There was something special about this young voice, something rare. It was not just talent, it was understanding. It was the ability to take everyday life and turn it into something powerful without losing its meaning. Critics noticed it too. They saw how carefully the album was put together. They saw the detail, the focus, and the honesty. It was not loud or wild. It was controlled. It was thoughtful, and that made it stand out even more. Very quickly, the name Nas began to grow. But even as the world started to pay attention, something did not change. He remained quiet. While others celebrated loudly, he stayed calm. While others explained their success, he stepped back. It was not that he did not care. It was that he did not feel the need to say more than what he already had. His music was speaking for him, but even then, there was a feeling that it was only part of the story. As people listened closely, they began to notice something. The stories he told were strong and clear, but they often felt like they were about everything around him, not everything inside him. He spoke about life, about people, about moments. But when it came to his deepest feelings, he held something back. It was not easy to explain. It was like reading a book where every page is powerful, but one chapter is missing. You know it is there. You can feel its space, but you cannot see it yet. This made his music even more interesting. Fans started to wonder. They asked quiet questions in their minds. How much of this is his full truth? What parts is he choosing not to share? Why does it feel like there is still something hidden beneath all of this? At the same time, success was growing fast. The world of music began to open its doors to him. Opportunities came. Attention followed him everywhere. People wanted more songs, more stories, more access to the person behind the voice. But Nas did not rush. He moved carefully, just like he always had. He stayed true to his style. He did not change his voice to fit what others expected. He did not become louder to match the noise around him. Instead, he held on to the same quiet strength that had brought him this far. And that was not easy. Fame brings pressure. It asks for more than just talent. It asks for attention, for explanation, for openness. It pulls people into the light, whether they are ready or not. For someone like Nas, this created a silent struggle. On one side was the world, asking him to give more of himself. On the other side was his nature, telling him to protect what mattered. He stood between these two forces, trying to find balance. And in that balance, the mystery remained. Even at the height of his early success, when his name was strong and his voice was respected, there was still a part of him that stayed hidden. Not because he could not share it, but because he chose not to. That choice became part of who he was. Fans respected him for his honesty, but they also felt the distance. They admired his truth, but they sensed there was more behind it. And that feeling did not fade. It only grew stronger with time, because the more he achieved, the more people looked closer. The more they listened, the more they wondered. What was he holding back, even at the peak of success? That question stayed in the air, unanswered but never forgotten. It followed him as his career moved forward. It sat quietly behind every new step, every new song, every new moment. And as the years went on, one thing became clear. Success did not remove the silence. It made it heavier. As his career grew, so did the weight of expectations and the cost of silence. Success, conflict, and inner wars. As the name Nas continued to rise, the world around him grew louder. Success brought attention from every direction. Fans praised him, critics studied him, other artists watched him closely. He was no longer just a voice from Queensbridge houses. He had become a powerful figure in hip-hop. But with that power came tension. One of the biggest moments in his journey came through his rivalry with Jay-Z. It was not a small disagreement. It was something deeper, something that caught the attention of the entire music world. Two strong voices stood on opposite sides, each defending their place, their skill, and their truth. For Nas, this was not just about music, it became personal. The pressure to respond was heavy. People were watching closely, waiting to see what he would do. In that moment, the quiet man had to speak in a way he never had before, and when he did, it came out strong and direct. That response became Ether. The song carried sharp words and deep emotion. It was not soft. It was not hidden. It showed a different side of him, one that was ready to stand firm and defend his name. Fans felt the energy immediately. They could hear the anger, the pride, and the need to be understood. The rivalry pushed him. It pushed his creativity to a higher level. It forced him to think deeper, to write stronger, and to express himself in ways that reached far beyond his usual calm style. But at the same time, it brought out emotions he often kept hidden. It was not just a battle of music, it was a test of identity. As the spotlight grew brighter, the pressure followed him everywhere. Being called one of the greatest was an honor, but it also came with weight. People expected perfection. They expected consistency. They expected him to always deliver something powerful. That kind of expectation is not easy to carry. Behind the success, there were personal struggles. Life outside of music did not always move smoothly. Relationships became more difficult under the public eye. Every step, every choice, every moment was seen and discussed. One of the most emotional parts of his life was his marriage to Kaylis. At first, it seemed full of promise. Two creative people coming together, building something meaningful. But over time, things changed. The relationship began to break. The separation became public, and with it came a tension that was hard to escape. People talked, stories spread, emotions ran deep. For Nas, this was not just a private moment. It became something the world could see. Fans could feel his pain. They heard it in his music. They saw it in the way he carried himself. There were moments when his words felt heavier, more personal, more real than ever before. But even then, he did not explain everything. He stayed true to who he was. He shared enough to be understood, but not enough to give away every part of himself. That balance remained, even in the hardest times. It was as if he knew that some things were not meant for the world to fully see. That choice shaped him. Fame gave him a voice, a powerful one that reached people everywhere. But it also gave him reasons to hide, to protect the parts of his life that felt too personal, too fragile, too important to expose completely. And so, the pattern continued. He spoke, but not fully. He shared, but not completely. He stood in the light, but kept part of himself in the shadows. As the years passed, the noise around him slowly changed. The rivalry faded, the tension softened. Life moved forward. And through it all, Nas continued to grow, both as an artist and as a person. But one thing never disappeared. The silence remained. And it was still waiting for its moment. As years passed, Nas evolved, but the silence remained until now. The evolution of a legend. Time moved forward, and so did Nas. The noise that once surrounded him began to settle. The pressure did not disappear, but it changed. It became quieter, more controlled, almost like it was no longer chasing him the way it once did. This was a new stage in his life. He was no longer the young voice trying to prove himself. He had already done that. His place in music was secure. His name was respected across generations. But instead of slowing down, something unexpected happened. He grew stronger. His later years brought a fresh energy, one that felt calm but powerful. It was not loud or forced. It was natural, like he had finally reached a space where he could fully understand himself. This change became clear through his music, especially in projects like King's Disease. These songs felt different. They still carried truth, but now there was more reflection, more wisdom. He spoke about life with a clearer voice, one shaped by years of experience. The struggles were still there, but they were no longer confusing. They were understood. They were accepted. Fans noticed it right away. The sharp edges in his voice softened, but they did not lose their strength. Instead, they became deeper. Every word felt more intentional. Every message felt more complete. It was no longer just about telling stories. It was about understanding them. At the same time, his life outside music began to grow in new ways. He stepped into the world of business with focus and care. He made smart decisions that allowed him to build something lasting beyond songs and stages. His financial growth showed that he was thinking ahead, planning for a future that was bigger than music alone. This was another side of him that people had not fully seen before. He was no longer just an artist. He was becoming a builder, someone who understood value in a different way. He moved with purpose, choosing his steps carefully, just like he always had. But now those steps reached further. As he continued to rise, something else changed. Younger artists began to look up to him. They saw him as more than a legend. They saw him as a guide, someone who had walked through challenges and come out stronger, someone who could show them how to last, how to grow, how to stay true. Without saying too much, he became a mentor. He did not stand in front and give long speeches. He led by example. Through his work, through his choices, through his calm presence, he showed others what it meant to build a lasting path. But even as he stepped into this new role, something deeper was happening. His music began to reveal small pieces of what he once kept hidden. Not everything at once, not in a loud way, but slowly, carefully, he started to open up more. His lyrics carried new layers of honesty. He spoke about personal growth, about lessons learned, about moments that shaped him. It was subtle, but fans could feel it. They began to notice a shift. The distance that once surrounded him started to feel smaller. The wall he had built over the years was not gone, but it was no longer as strong as before. It was as if he was finally allowing people to see just a little bit more, and that made them listen even closer, because now it felt like something bigger was coming. There was a quiet sense that he was preparing for something important. Not just another song, not just another project, something deeper, something that would explain the silence, the choices, and the space he had kept for so long. The feeling grew stronger with time. Every new word, every new step, every new moment seemed to point in the same direction. It was as if he had been holding on to something for years, waiting for the right time to let it go. And now, that time felt close. The calm in him was different now. It was not just control, it was readiness. Fans could sense it. They did not know exactly what he would say, but they knew it would matter. They knew it would bring answers to questions they had carried for years. They knew it would connect the past to the present in a way that would finally make sense. The silence was no longer just silence. It was a pause before something important. And as he stood at this stage of his life, stronger, wiser, and more open than ever before, one truth became clear. At 54, the time for silence was running out. The truth fans always felt. At 54, Nas no longer feels like a mystery that must be solved. Instead, he feels like a story that has slowly revealed itself, piece by piece, over time. The truth that many people waited for does not arrive like a sudden surprise. It comes gently, like something that has always been there, just waiting to be understood. For years, fans believed he was hiding something. But the truth is softer than that. He was never hiding from the world. He was protecting himself. From the very beginning, his music carried honesty. It spoke about real life, real places, and real struggles. But it was not the full picture. It was chosen truth, carefully shaped, thoughtfully shared. He gave what he was ready to give, and held back what he was not. That was his way of staying whole. Behind the music, there were things he carried quietly. Emotional wounds that did not need loud explanations, pressure that came from being seen as one of the greatest, responsibility that followed him as his voice reached more and more people. He held all of this inside, not because he could not speak, but because he understood the weight of what he would be sharing. And so, he moved carefully. Over time, fans began to sense this. They felt the depth in his words. They heard the emotion behind the calm. They understood that his pain was real, even when he did not fully explain it. They noticed that his silence was not empty, but intentional. They were not imagining it. They were feeling the truth in their own way. As the years passed, Nas slowly began to open more windows into his world. Through interviews, through his lyrics, and through the way he spoke about life, he gave clearer reflections of who he was. Not all at once, but enough to connect the pieces. The picture became clearer. His depth did not come from performance. It came from living, from everything he had seen, felt, and carried since his early days. The struggles, the growth, the lessons, all of it shaped him into the man he became. And now, at this stage of his life, that truth feels complete. Fans can finally see what they always sensed. They were not wrong. They just did not have the full picture. The silence they questioned was never distance. It was protection. It was strength. And that understanding changes everything. It gives his music new meaning. It gives his journey more weight. It shows that every choice he made, every word he held back, was part of something deeper. Today he stands calmer, wiser, and more open than before. His influence reaches across generations. Younger artists learn from his discipline, his patience, and his ability to stay true to himself. His story is no longer just about music. It is about growth, reflection, and survival. It teaches something simple but powerful. There is strength in waiting, there is power in speaking when you are ready, not when the world demands it. His silence was never a weakness, it was a choice, and now that choice is understood. As his journey continues, one quiet truth remains stronger than ever. Sometimes the loudest truths are the ones spoken quietly over time.